Hey, Safehouse family.
Hey, Safehouse family.
Who's back? Andre was here by himself a couple of days ago, but now he decided to pull me into his craziness. So here we are.
We are back in effect. That's an old phrase, right? We ain't said that since the 80s.
That's okay. Well, I mean, that just means we're just telling people our age. So, that's cool. But even in saying that, we should probably reintroduce ourselves. I am Lana Allen.
And I'm Andre Allen.
And we are the leaders of Safehouse Ministries. We are definitely very humbled that God has even given us an opportunity to kind of share with other couples what it's like to be married for 29 years and getting ready to celebrate the big 3-0 and still be in love, still want to be with the person, even though we have faced plenty of challenges and things like that. But we use this platform, this ministry, to be able to encourage couples, to inspire couples, and just to be able to have real conversation about marriage, because our end goal is really what God wants, is for marriages to have longevity and for marriages to be healthy.
Yeah, really when it comes down to it, what are we? Are we counselors? No, we're not counselors. No. We're coaches, right? And the whole idea of marriage coaching is that, our motto as Safehouse is that we're relentless. And what we want to be is that fuel to help you in your relentlessness journey. So we want to be able to help you and provide insight, provide a safe space, provide access to people and resources that can help you along this journey, even just be a place to ask questions that are uncomfortable to ask in other places. It's an unfortunate sight to see couples that you think are doing well just completely fall apart unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And what we want to try to be is an intervention so that before things become so out of whack and so crazy that there's a third party, there's a voice, there's people, there's a village around you that can just provide you insight, wisdom, lessons learned, learning from our scrapes, bruises, where the mines are in the minefield, all of that. But that's really what we are. We want to coach you into your next, and hopefully your interaction with us will coach us as we walk into our next.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. And I'm glad you used the word village, because I think about tribes and how everybody's kind of in it together. The goal is for, we all want to win. It's not that we're rooting for everybody's marriage. I'm a really big advocate of marriage, and so it is for me to be a part of this. Is I always want to make sure that that we create this safe space where couples feel like, okay, no matter what they're going through, or we can talk about it. We can just, like I said, create a safe space for couples to be able to come and talk about the real things that happen in marriage. I think, like I said, even for us, like I said, we've been gone for a while because we've been transitioning. We've had quite a few transitions in our life. And so we really appreciate people praying for us, because, we know people have been asking us, even when we were away. They're like, hey, is Safehouse coming back? What are you guys doing? And so even for us, we had to step back and really just kind of, I don't want to say go back to the drawing board, but really just ask God, okay, why are we doing this, and how do you want to use us? And so, like I said, with God giving us permission to come back, like I said, one of the goals is to create a space where we can have healthy marriages and longevity. Because I think you said one of the things, sometimes we can look healthy on the outside, but then we're not healthy on the inside. And so the goal is when we're not healthy on the inside, we can create these spaces where people can come and talk and know that it's safe for them. Because like you said, there aren't a lot of safe spaces, but that's one of our goals, is to create a safe space.
We also want to send a big thank you out to all the couples that have been involved in Safehouse.
Yes.
We want to thank you for not just your involvement, but for your accountability. You asking us and inquiring about us and about Safehouse and when it's coming back, it held us to account for what God has told us to do.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so we thank you for continuing to be invested in this Safe House journey and the Safe House family. And we look forward to everything that God has to say about marriages. Over the past couple of years, we've covered some really compelling content,
We
right?
really
We talked
have.
about the power centers in marriage, right? How different power centers can create negative influences or positive influences. We talked about boosters and busters in marriage, right? What types of behaviors can boost connection and what type of behaviors can bust a connection? I think we even drew parallels from the Bible, and we talked about, who was it? Rachel.
And we talked about Rachel,
Yeah.
and we talked about Leah, and we talked about the kids' names and what that looks like when it shows up in your marriage.
And just the situation was complicated,
Yes,
right?
very
and we have
complicated.
that sort of Facebook status, a relationship status is complicated, and sometimes marriage can be complicated,
Yes.
right? Especially when you're going through a transition, especially when you don't know what the other side of the transition looks like. And it's really, God has a sense of humor in a sense that he doesn't always reveal the full picture of what's
Absolutely.
next to us, right? But as we're going through, he'll reveal bits and pieces and parts and expose things and send people into our lives to pray for us and walk with us, expose us to more information. And we look up and we're in a new place.
Yes, kind of like we are. So we're in a new place because we're what people consider to be empty nesters. So for the past 26 years of our lives, for our marriage, we've had people in our house. Our son is 26 years old now. So I think one of the biggest transitions for us is to okay, like I said, now that we don't have anybody in the house, it's like, okay, how do I deal with this person who really, even though we were dealing with each other for 26 years, but it was still different because there was all other types of interactions that we had to have, talking about the kids and, even with our parents live with us. So we've always had people living with us. We were laughing about it because we were saying that the last time we lived together by ourselves was like 26 years ago.
Yeah.
And so even for us, it's kind of hard to think back. We were fresh in marriage. That was like we were like 3 years in.
Yeah,
And let's just be honest, 3 years in, I don't know if we were. I don't know. We didn't envision ourselves at 30. Let me just say that part.
Things were fragile.
Yes, they were very fragile.
They were fragile. They were like a new egg.
Right. That probably got dropped a couple of times.
Right. And we kind of caught it before it hit the
Right,
ground,
exactly.
right?
Whoa.
There was kind of a crack in it at some
Right.
point, but
That's
none of
right.
it slipped
Yeah,
out, right?
exactly.
So yeah, no, it's real.
Yeah.
Because, when we think about that in context of transition, right? So here, the most of our life we've spent together, we spent it surrounded by other people, whether it's children or people we cared for, or
Yes.
people in our families. And without real clear purpose, when transition happens, it can be overwhelming, right? Without really understanding what God has put you together to do.
Yeah.
Transition can be scary because you don't know what's on the other side of transition. But I think one of the things that the Safe House family has held us accountable to, and even we've learned, is that, we have a mission to really, really pour into people and to really, really create these environments and to really, really connect with people and to really deal with those dirty, low down, gut bucket things that nobody wants to talk about, that helps marriages survive. When we go to church, we look dressed up. We may have argued on the way to church that morning, but we show up in church in our, clothes, whatever we're wearing, and we're smelling good and looking good, and we're raising our hands, knowing that we use that same hand, to point a finger and say things just that very morning, right? And then after church is over, it's sad. We known of couples that right after church was over, they went to their separate residences, right? They came to church and they played together for the time of worship, and then afterwards went home to their separate residence as if God didn't know that they were separated. So we want to short circuit that so that it doesn't get to the point where separation is the only option.
But I also think too, one of the things I love about Safe House is that it's all about building relationships. And so, like you said, even if you have that couple that they feel like they're on the verge of separating, they can call us.
Yeah.
So it's not just about us meeting on Zoom or just having just general conversations. We're all about building for real relationships with people, because we understand that it's the relationships that you have with people that helps keep you together. Because once again, marriage is fragile when you just can't talk to anybody about marriage. But like I said, we're grateful that God has given us this space where we feel like it's not just us having conversations, but we're really about building relationships with the couples that are involved in Safehouse, so that when things do happen, we can show up. You can call us, or we, you said, if we got to take a plane or something, whatever, we're just that invested in making sure that whatever needs to happen in that moment, that we can be of assistance. So I know you had called us like coaches. To me, that's what coaches do. That's what mentors do. They show up when you need them. So like I said, that's definitely one of the things that we're definitely going to be being better at. Like I said, not that I don't think we're bad at it, but I do think that, when God had us step back for a minute to really kind of think about, like you said, the purpose of Safehouse. One of the big purposes of Safehouse is not just for us to have conversations, but one of the big purposes of Safehouse is for us to build relationships with other couples, because to me, that's one of the ways that couples feel safe. I'm not just going to tell you everything that's going on with me if I don't feel like we have a real relationship.
So in 2024, we're really going to be, even into 2023 possibly.
Yeah.
We're going to be speaking about this transition thing,
Yeah.
right? We're really going to be digging deep on transitions, and we feel we're uniquely positioned because we're in the midst of a transition in multiple places of our lives, right? It's not just about kids leaving. People know I'm a business owner, so there's a transition going on there. We have a transition with our kids. We have transitions with our families.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, when you look at marriage is a long series of transitions. When you initially are getting together with someone, you transition from a place of singleness to now a place of togetherness. Then at some point you transition from a place of living apart to a place of cohabitation. You transition, if you decide to have kids, from a place of being a double income, no kids family dinks to now we have a child we have to care for and raise. And then you transition, even in that child's rearing, from them being a completely dependent baby to a toddler to an adolescent to a high schooler. And then there's a transition of them becoming an adult. And what does that look like in your togetherness? Then at some point in life, there's transitions dealing with parents and sickness and illness and caregiving, transition in career, job change, whether we lose a job or decide to change jobs. My wife answered her calling to be a real teacher within the she's a real teacher. Not that she's always been a real teacher. God created her as a real teacher, but she decided to codify that in the form of actually teaching in a school system. So it's helped her to sort of refine that gift. But once again, that's another transition, because during our kids' rearing, you didn't work, right?
Right. I started to work, but what made that transition hard was because, once again, like I said, when I had my second child, 21 years ago, I said, hey, I want to be the stay-at-home mom. So that was a whole transition. And then when I decided that I want to kind of dip my toe back into working again, I feel like that was a really hard transition for us, because I think part of it was because we didn't really kind of talk it through and what it looked like. Mm-hmm. So obviously that's something we'll talk about later. But I do think, like I said, as I'm thinking about really tough transitions in our lives, that to me is probably one of the toughest transitions that we had to make. What I thought should have been easy, it was one of the hardest points in our marriage. It was really hard.
So what we'd like to ask you all to do is, as we're getting our content together, we're doing this completely unscripted, y'all.
Yes,
we are shooting straight from the heart. Right. So there's no script that we're working off of. But we would like you to start to think about the transitions that you've been through and or you're going through, right? And more than likely, you are going through some level of transition, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Right.
So think about the transitions you've gone through, what you're going through, what you may go through. Think about the transitions that you may have handled well. Think about the transitions that you may have not handled so well. And what we want you to do in the comments and in other places, and even messaging us, we'll have the information up here for you to be able to contact us. Start to send us your questions, thoughts, concerns about transitions in life. Right. And that gives us fuel for the content that we'll produce. We have some things already in the can that we want to talk about,
yes,
but we want to make sure, too, that we're meeting the need, the immediate need. It does no good for us to sit up and pontificate about topics when someone has a real question that they want addressed. We'd rather spend our time being very targeted.
Can we just go back to pontificate?
Okay.
I'm like, pontificate.
Pontificate,
yeah. Those big words. I'm like, listen, I have to be a whole dictionary to be married to this guy. I knew that at some point some big word was going to come out. I was like, okay, all right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, keep going.
Here we go. When we spouting off about stuff that we already created, right? When we're flapping our gums about information we've already created. So we don't want to do that. We want to be targeted and focused and address the needs. So make sure you reach out to us, share with us information. Participate, so once again, we'll have information here in the video. We'll also post numbers and email addresses. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, share your content, share a picture of you're coupled, if you're coupled up, if you boot up, share a picture. And just,
do people still get booed up?
I don't know. It's like we owe. So I don't know if any of these phrases we're using are even applicable anymore, right? Our daughter laughs at us when we try to say stuff. And at one point, I thought I was cool. I really did, right? But it ain't happening.
Well, listen, we still here, so that's really all.
We still here, right. All right, I'm cool. I'm still cool.
Right. This is what we do all day. Oh my goodness.
But with that, we're gonna say goodnight. And Safehouse family, once again, be sure to reach out, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Definitely reach out with content, share that selfie, and tag Safehouse, Safe in the House, at Safe in the House on Instagram. And be on the lookout for the next set of content, next set of pieces. We have some dynamic couples.
We do.
And with some dynamic stories.
Absolutely.
That will blow you away on how they've overcome.
Right?
Yes. These are overcomers that we'll be interviewing. Some folks are still going through. And they're going to show you what it's like to still be joyful while you're going through. Yes. So it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful season that we have coming up for you. So look forward to it.
Look forward to seeing you again. We love you. And like I said, definitely miss you guys. And so, like I said, definitely looking forward to diving back in.
All right. We love you with the love of the Lord.
Yes, we do. The love of the Lord.
The love of the Lord. Peace.
I'm not saying